Hey guys, welcome back to Getting Fed with Nutmed. So I'm glad you joined us this time. So to begin with, what we're gonna do today, as I stated last time, is we're gonna go over our proper cutting techniques for our veggies. A lot of these guys can be applied to our fruits as well accordingly, so some of them doesn't really apply too much, but it can apply to some. So think like your apples and your oranges and stuff like that. So to begin, let's go over this knife handling technique again. Make sure we're holding it correctly. We want to make sure our fingers are going to go across here, curling up. We don't want to hold it like the serial killer, remember that. We want to hold it about like yay here. And then that smooth rocking motion is what we're looking for. So kind of do it this way, just like that, and then move the product as you're cutting. All right, let's get that guy out of the way now. All right, so to begin with, we're going to touch on our three main veggies that we're going to go over. We're going to touch on the onion, good for chopping, dicing, slicing, mincing, and quartering. Going to touch on the tomato. Really, you see that a lot of times sliced, pretty simple with that guy, and diced primarily is where you're going to use that. And then peppers, most of the time, once again, diced, chopped. Julienne's another really good one there. So without further ado, let us begin. All right, so let's get it started with the onion. Already went and did the nitty-gritty part of cleaning it to kind of get it ready for us. So what we're going to do here, we're going to cut off this part, save the root. We want to make sure the root stays here with us. Now, cut off this part right here, flip it over, do our best to slice right down the middle of the root there. We'll do quartering first. All right, so quartering is super simple. Literally cut it into a fourth. So, just like that. We now have a quartered onion. Pretty simple, not too difficult whatsoever. That's gonna be good for roasts and stuff of that nature. So think like your pot roast and all that good stuff, the slow cooker type stuff. Next on our list, we're gonna do the chopped. All right, this is where it kind of gets tricky. We're gonna wanna start slicing right down the sides like this. Give yourself about 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch between each slice and go down pretty smoothly, just like that. Flip it over, and here comes the rocking motion technique again. And just like that, we got our chopped onion. Really super simple. All right, once again, when you're slicing, give it about that 1/4 of an inch to kind of get that chop motion going. All right, next on our list, we're gonna go over our mincing and our dicing. So when it comes to chopped, those guys are gonna be good for like your lasagnas and stuff of that nature, your casseroles. When you think minced, think like your omelets and stuff of that nature. And then when it comes down to diced, once again, it depends on your texture, the way you want it to be. If it's a little bit overcooked, undercooked, that diced can also go into your casseroles and stuff of that nature. So this is where it's gonna get a little bit closer so we can get that diced. So it's gonna go from about 1/4 of an inch to a little bit less than that 1/4 of an inch. And then just nice and slice. All right, smooth chopping motion. Separate those guys away from each other so we can kind of look at them later. Now let's look at the mincing. Mincing is going to be even closer, so tiny, tiny slices. So try to get it as close as you possibly humanly can. All right. Oh, I just made a mistake, but let's keep going. Super, super close together. As you can see, pretty tiny slices for the most part. Kind of keep it slow, keep it steady. As we know, slow and steady wins the race. All right, move those guys off to the side. We now have our minced. And to make it a little bit smaller, if it's not small enough for you, just take your knife and smoothly move it through them. So about like this, move them all into the center. This is where that smooth chopping motion kind of comes back into play. So we're gonna do it just like this and just go through them. Try to keep your hand up here on the top of the knife because if you're not, stuff's gonna go flying. All right. That way we can mince them down even further. This is gonna be good for stuff like reductions. So your minced stuff, reductions are gonna be sauces that you're gonna put on like your chicken and your steaks and stuff like that to kind of give them an even better, deeper flavor profile. You're using the crystallized proteins from those guys' meats to make it taste even better. So there is our minced. Once again, we're gonna kind of touch on the dicing technique for the tomatoes. I'm gonna bust out my favorite little handy dandy knife here though. This is my Chinese cleaver. This is the vegetable cleaver. These guys are kind of dangerous because they're super sharp, so be very careful when you're using these guys. So once again, try to save where the root connects, or where, for the tomato, where the stem connects. So save that guy, cut right here, and then do the same thing, right down the middle. Move that off to the side, and then we're slicing just like that. But with the tomato, we got a little bit of an added step. So take your knife, go right through just like that. If you don't do this, you're not getting your dices. And then slowly slice right through. And there is your diced tomato. All right. Let's go ahead and chop this guy up too. Remember, slow, steady wins the race. You're not going to master this stuff overnight, then again you might. And if that's the case, this next little technique doesn't really do the smooth rocking motion like I was showing you earlier. You're kind of just going up and down pretty smoothly, pretty fast. All right, so curl your fingers and have your knuckles come into contact with the blade. This kind of protects your fingers, keeps you from cutting them. So keep it just like that. Just go up and down super quick. And if your blade is sharp enough, the blade's going to do the work for you. You don't got to do much force or put too much force into it. And just like that, we have our diced tomatoes ready to go into your chili or whatever your favorite dish is going to be for that guy. We're going to focus on the julienne for these guys. So yellow pepper, one of my faves. So take your knife, once again, just kind of go down the sides of them. One, this is going to help you kind of keep the seeds away. You want to try to get a little close, but not too close. And as you can see, the seeds are going to stay pretty compact. You're really not going to have to worry about the seeds falling out everywhere. And you get a little bit of a better product because, unfortunately, these little guys right here that kind of connect to it are pretty bitter for the most part. All right down the side, just like that. All right, and this is where, once again, just up and down, smooth chopping motions are going to kind of come into play. So curl the fingers and just go right through it. And boom, just like that. Julienne peppers. Or sliced peppers, depending on how thick you cut them. So julienne's going to be pretty thin. Your chopped stuff, of course, is going to be a little bit thicker. All right. So let's focus on our diced peppers now. So chopped, minced, diced, same thing applies to these guys as to the onions. So let's do this. And then let's do we'll do the minced first. So this guy is going to, once again, it can be put into reduction, or, you know, if you really like smaller peppers compared to like your bigger chunks, it's just a texture thing for some people. But here is our minced pepper. All right. And there we have it. Take the blade, go right back through. Chop them up even smaller if need be. That way you can get a better product for yourself. So I thank you for joining me. So please join us next time on Getting Fed with Nutmeg. Once again, I am Sergeant Owens. What we'll be focusing on next time is going to be stuff like your sauces. So think homemade marinara, your roux that are going to be put into stuff like, say, a bechamel, or what would lead to one of the best homemade mac and cheeses you'll probably ever have in your life. And then we'll also be touching on reductions at some point later on down the road, which is where the minced onion and all that good stuff is going to kind of come into play later on. All right, thank you for joining me once again. Thank you, have a great day.